Chase Thomas podcast. My nephew needs me to record. See, I already hate it. I hate it.
All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast. From still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, Everything School HQ. Joining me down there in Tequila, Georgia, my good friend from the University of North Georgia alumni, Matt Green. Matt, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. How are I'm just hanging on by a thread here as we record live on this Wednesday night. I'm rocking my Braves gear. The waning moments of the 2024 season, I'm afraid.
We shall see, but it's one of those where, AJ Smith-Shawver pitching in the first game, Chris Sale being so good all season long and then not available in that first wild card round, Austin Riley not able to make it back. There's just so many things. Obviously, no Acuna and Strider, my guy Spencer, the Knoxville legend, Spencer Strider, and I don't know. It's just one of those years, and we talked about it before we got started. It's different. Like, you'll never experience this as a Georgia guy, Matt, is when your college baseball team wins a World Series and the same year as your professional team. It's just you don't feel as like, oh man, they gotta take care of business here. I need the Braves to win the World Series this year. It's part of like I don't know if this is just me, but from what I've seen and just from my experience throughout this year, Braves fans have not had fun. This has been a pretty brutal year, and most Braves fans are leaving these games very annoyed, and it's pretty negative, even with the team winning and making the playoffs. And there's a lot of teams that would love to be in the spot that they're in, but it just doesn't seem like a lot of joy. I don't think there's been joy in this Braves season. I think a lot of people have just been like, but you never know, it's baseball, and they just keep pushing through of like, you never know, it's baseball, but people are not enjoying it. Like the Mets game on Monday afternoon, that was wild, the up and down affair, and people are just, this Brave season has caused a lot more gray hairs to spurt from Braves Nation, because it's wild.
That's what confuses me. It's like, yeah, there hadn't been fun because all the best players are injured. Like, hasn't been a lot of fun at all. Matt Olson probably having like his worst year, and I don't know, since he's been a Brave, and it's still almost 30-100. But Marcell Ozuna is like the only bright spot of the team this year. But yeah,
Ozzy Albies is a bright spot.
Who?
Love me some Ozzy. Ozzy Albies is a bright spot.
Ozzy's missed like half the season though. Like he was hurt for.
I didn't feel like it was half.
I think he had multiple injuries this year.
Yeah.
He was at least out like the last like 2 months or so.
Mm-hmm.
But they're down to 2 outs right now. But no, I think it's this weird like victimhood that Braves fans, Atlanta fans like still want to be. Like, I guess if you're not a Georgia fan and you're just a Braves fan, like, I feel like we got past it. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of other cities that like haven't won anything. Like Georgia won 2 national championships. The Braves won a championship. I say that as someone who doesn't really care about the Falcons. Like, obviously the Super Bowl was brutal, but like, I don't know. It's like this victimhood I see on Twitter. Like, oh, being an Atlanta sports fan, I'm like, what are you talking about? We've won championships recently. Like, get over it. Like, there's no curse and stuff on Atlanta. Like, I don't know. It's weird energy.
I tend to agree, and I think winning in 21, and part of the thing about the Braves is a little bit different, is like, you just know they're going to be in it every year. It's just it's so silly, but I just look at it, I'm like, look, they'll be right back next year. They'll be the favorites in the NL East. They'll be aggressive, and Max Fried probably won't be back, but the Acuna stuff's not going to happen again. Strider will be back at some point. Like, they're going to be loaded. And they're going to be
someone to have their best year of their career to just come join their team, because that's just kind of what happens with that Braves bump.
Yeah, like, I'm just not worried about it. I'm not sweating it. Like, the Padres have to do this. The Padres, it's like, oof, they finally had some things go right for them. If you're a Padres fan, you're like, if not now, when? If you're a Braves fan, everyone who's just lost their mind this year at this team, I'm like, it's just an injury-riddled year that they just are crawling to the finish line here. But like, just take it for what it is. It's like, hey, I would just keep expectations low, and I have all year long. It's just like, you lost Acuna and Strider early on in the year. Like, it was always just going to be that kind of year. Just enjoy it for what it is. If they make the run, cool. If not, just become a Tennessee Vols fan and go watch the best.
Yeah, and that was the other part.
So
Travis d'Arnaud just fouled out. Ball game over. Season over. 89 wins is unbelievable for this team this year. I don't know how they did it. But to go back in this conversation, Georgia fans that were Braves fans experienced myself. I experienced a World Series, national championship, and then Matthew Stafford winning a Super Bowl all in the same in the same season, like
Yeah.
you can't beat that. Yeah, that cute little college baseball tournament. That's nice. Yeah, but Tennessee fans, they want that football natty. Georgia got the
friend of the pod,
back-to-back
Nick Cellini
natties.
of 680 The Fan.
We're not pouting over here.
Well, friend of the pod, Nick Cellini of 680 The Fan just tweeted, and that concludes this godforsaken season. Like, that's just what it is. I think it's good for Braves fans. Like, look, I am not wishing the Braves lose, but God, I just, from my vantage point, it just felt like so many people were so frustrated, and this baseball is so long that I'm like, man, I didn't think they were going to win the title anyway. I didn't think they could. I think the injury issues all season long, they like you said, 89 wins with what they dealt with is unbelievable. Like the fact that they were able to get there.
And then Chris Sale was like the one. Well, in Azuna, Chris Sale was just like he's gonna be the Cy Young winner, and then he goes down for the wild card game. And it's just like, what the hell is happening now? And did you see the guy with the prop bet before the season started, put $20 on Chris Sale to lead the MLB in strikeouts, and he needed like 4 strikeouts in the last start, but he moved his start back and he never got that last start, and he would have won, like, I think it's like $2,000 or something like that. But
that sucks.
Oh man, that'd be brutal.
But look, go Braves. They'll be back next year. But Braves Nation who listen, I know there's a lot of Braves fans who listen to this. You're gonna be favored to win 90+ games again next year. You're going to get a lot of health. Next year's going to be a lot more fun. That's just my gut. 2025 is going to be a lot more enjoyable season. You'll enjoy watching Braves baseball.
Don't stop the chop.
Yeah.
Don't stop the chop. Can't stop. Won't stop. We'll be back in 2025.
There you go. Matt Green. We have college football to talk about on this very program. Tennessee on the road at Fayetteville this weekend. Georgia back at home against Auburn this weekend. So 2 interesting games. Could be close on both ends, but we'll get into that here at the top of this very program. Week 6 already here, man. The college football season just moving through very quickly here, sir. So when you could you please look at where our standings are, win-loss, and our against the spread stat line to this point, sir, because I feel like I'm doing pretty well. And this was a tougher week, I'll tell you, as I was making these picks and putting our show sheet together. This is one of the more difficult games slates to parse through, because there were some really big lines, some really low lines. I don't know if you felt the same, but I think this was the most difficult for me to pick this week as a whole.
Yeah, just because we've seen some of so many teams, but we haven't seen a lot. It's like this to this point, with like 5 games in, it's like you've just seen such different performances from different teams. Like you saw a Georgia team that scored 13 points at Kentucky and then scored 34 on Alabama. So, it's just, you don't know what you're getting week in and week out with some of these teams. We've seen some good, but we've seen some bad. We've seen Miami almost lose on a Hail Mary, and we've seen them look like, one of the best teams in college football at times. So it's still feeling these teams out, but I feel like I don't know. I'm getting more and more excited the more conference games I see on the slate. Like I think we're almost done with all the cupcakes, I think.
There's still the late game cupcakes, because like Tennessee's got UTEP the second to last week of the season. Does Georgia have a late game cupcake? I feel like they do.
Yeah, I want to say like UMass or something, but I don't know. I feel like UMass is like always on the schedule at some point. I'm not even sure.
Ooh, Don Brown. It's a tough one up there, and for the Minutemen, just not going well. That's a tough job, man. Well, Matt Green, going into, you haven't done our stat line though, going into this weekend.
Oh, I have not done the stat line. I was trying to pull Georgia's schedule. Yes, UMass, they play the week after Tennessee. So let's pull up the standings here, sir. On the season, you have a 1-game lead overall, 39-22 to my 38-23. Then against the spread, you are 26-34-1. Solid. Still needs improvement. That's 3 games up on me, 23-37-1. So sitting at sub 40%. I need to get that number back up. But Zeus on the season. So maybe just whoever I say, maybe you don't go with what I say. I'm blanking on the term. you hedge somebody. But shoot, I don't know. The gamblers out there know what I'm talking about. Where you just go opposite of what somebody's saying. Zeus on the season is
Short it?
2-4.
Is it short?
I mean, that's the stock market term, but no,
I'm just throwing out
is.
terms here.
I'm
Slammy, Sammy, Samsonite.
I was way off. But yeah, so they know what they're talking about. I'm only a semi gambler, not a big gambler. But yeah, I'm 2 Zeus, I should say, home dog of the week is 2-4 on the season. So we'll see if he can get back in the win column this week.
Well, we know what it is. Like, if Tori and you are serious about Zeus and getting back on track, you know what it has to be. It has to be the meals. You have to improve what's going on. Like, if you want him at his best brain-wise, he needs to be fed in a way that's going to maximize that brain power as he's trying to pick his home dog of the week, man.
Like, Zeus is in the best shape of his life. All right. Went 12-5 last year, 9-5 the year before. He's doing just fine. All right.
Okay. What's his record post chicken tendy incident?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess he went 1-1 that week. So, who knows?
Okay. But no, he's all good. No chicken tendy incidents this week.
Yeah, learned my lesson there. Gotta keep a cover on that thing. Push to the back of the counters.
There you go. Well, Matt Green, let's start with the Tennessee Vols. The number 4 Tennessee Vols ahead of the number 4 Georgia Bulldogs this week. They travel to Fayetteville. Kind of a rare occurrence. Tennessee does not play Arkansas that much, but they also haven't won since 2001. They've lost their last 3 against Arkansas. The first time Heupel has played Arkansas in his Tennessee tenure here. The Hogs are 13-point home dogs going into this one, coming off their loss to Texas A&M and Jerry World last Saturday. Matt Green, what say you about the Vols in Fayetteville this weekend?
So this is an interesting game. I think prime time, in Fayetteville. I think they said this might only be their second game in Fayetteville so far this year. They played the opener in Little Rock against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then played a couple road games. But
UAB, I guess,
feel like
this
is the first team Tennessee. Okay, so I think this is the first team Tennessee's played this year that actually has like an identity offensively. Like they at least know what they want to do. Like Oklahoma clearly didn't know what they wanted to do until, I don't know, the fourth quarter of that game, I guess. I just look at this Arkansas team. They've been solid offensively. That running game has been really good, but they've also turned the ball over a lot. Like Taylon Green has been a little turnover prone. What do you have, like 4 turnovers by himself? I think like 2 or 3 interceptions and a couple fumbles, I think last week or the week before. I can't remember which one, but yeah, he's been a little turnover prone this year. I feel like this feels like it's going to be like an electric atmosphere and like a really good college football game for like 15 minutes, maybe 20. Like I think this is going to be exciting early. It might be like a 14-14, like Arkansas, like they kind of, throwing punches. But I think ultimately, I think Tennessee's just got too much firepower. I think this is definitely going to be the best run offense Tennessee's faced. So like, I don't know how much stock I'm putting into their, what are they averaging, like 50, like 50 yards a game on the ground so far this year. They've obviously been good, but this will definitely be the biggest test so far. But I just don't know. I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to get enough stops to really play with this Tennessee team for too long. So I don't think it's just ugly, but give me Tennessee to win and cover. I'm going to say 34-17.
Yeah. Tennessee still has not given up. They've given up 1 defensive touchdown through the last 5 games. And it was the fourth quarter, like you talked about, where Oklahoma went to their backup quarterback in Michael Hawkins. I don't think Oklahoma scores a touchdown if they had stuck with Jackson Arnold the whole way, and I think that streak continues. Tennessee was also, if you go back, a lot of backups were in on that drive in the fourth quarter. Tennessee was they were rotating a lot, and it was not the starters that Oklahoma ultimately scored on in that drive to end the streak. But I struggle with this game in some ways where the thing that I think will ultimately decide this game is Arkansas has coughed up the ball a lot. Like that Auburn game was indicative of where both programs are. Arkansas is 100th in fumbles lost this season. They fumbled the ball 12 times, lost it 4 times of those 12, but they just have put the ball on the ground a lot. Taylor Green has thrown several picks. He's not been good under pressure. Like when you get home, and Nick Scorton and company made life very complicated for Arkansas. But it's also the weird part about Arkansas is you watch it, and I watched that whole game against Texas A&M in preparation for this week, Matt Green, and it just felt weird watching Arkansas because they were in control for a lot of it, and you could see them being in the lead and everything else, and it just still felt like Arkansas was going to do something silly and just still not win this game. Like Marcel Reed was okay for A&M, but that offense didn't have a whole lot of juice. It was the defense really keeping them in that game against Arkansas, but it didn't feel like there was a big stark contrast between A&M and Arkansas. It didn't feel like there was a big stark contrast between Arkansas and Oklahoma State, and they lost both those games. I mean, Arkansas could easily be 5-0 right now. They should have. You could make the case should have beaten A&M and should have beaten Oklahoma State to start the year. But they were also in a dogfight against UAB, who's really bad. Like UAB is a really bad FBS team this year. So
Auburn isn't much either, but that's one of their better performances.
Yeah, and I struggle to figure out who the real Arkansas team is. Like this is huge for them. They get I think they have a bye after this, and they go to LSU. If I'm not mistaken. And look, like Arkansas, the timing is not good. Tennessee gets a bye to heal up. Lance Hurd not on the injury report, so it looks like Lance Hurd's going to be ready to go at left tackle. John Campbell is going to be ready to go at right tackle. So Tennessee will not have their offensive line banged up like they had going to Norman on Saturday 2 weeks ago. I also just don't think Arkansas's offensive line and Taylor Green's decision-making is a good matchup for what Tennessee has. Like the front seven for Tennessee, I think it's even better than what A&M was throwing at him. And I just think to beat Tennessee this season, you have to take advantage of those opportunities where Nico put the ball on the ground twice 2 weeks ago. And Tennessee's defense immediately forced 2 turnovers back and avoided some that game getting a little bit more spicy in Norman. I wonder what it looks like because Nico has turned the ball over 4 times total in these 2 quote-unquote road games against NC State and Oklahoma. 2 fumbles against Oklahoma, 2 interceptions. Still only his 6th start. So he's still learning. He's still young. He may be 4th in Heisman odds, but the thing about Nico is his best football still ahead of him. Like he is still learning and growing. And the offensive line, the pass protection has not been great, but this is a good team to be facing if your pass protection is not that great. Because Tennessee is not worried about Arkansas's front seven. That all being said, I think Arkansas is going to have a really, really hard time scoring enough points to hang with Tennessee. Because I think Tennessee is going to score 30 plus. I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to win the game. If you play this game the way I look at it, 100 times, not go full Hugh Freeze here. But I think Tennessee wins this game 95 times. But I think there are some ways where Arkansas makes it a game and it could be a 1-score weird on the road game. And it's turnovers. Where can they force enough and then not create enough turnovers in their own? Like they need a game where they win the turnover margin like 4-1 or 3-1 to really win this football game. And I just don't think that's possible because their quarterback is just so chaotic. And Tennessee, I just think, is going to force turnovers. And I think I could see it being 2-2 even, and I don't think Arkansas can upset Tennessee as 2 touchdown home dogs against the Vols. And the Vols Heupel has lost 1 game as a head coach coming out of a bye week, and it was back in 2020 at UCF. And I think this team is ready to go. They're healthy, and they know if they get home 5-0, they have the next 4 games at home conference-wise, including Alabama and Florida. They're in really, really good shape for the CFP. So I'd be a little bit more nervous if there wasn't an idle week in between these 2 games because I think Saturday, the Norman game was just so emotional for so many people involved, and it was a really physical, draining game. If they had to immediately go back on the road to Fayetteville, I think this would have been more upset potential. But I can't shake that feeling that this bye week and everything else, Tennessee's gonna be coming into Fayetteville ready to go, and I don't see this as South Carolina 22 2 type deal where they really overlook and just a disaster type road SEC game against someone no one thought Tennessee could lose to. So give me the Vols 42, Arkansas 13.
All right, put it on the board.
Next up, your team, Matt Green. You were in the building here 2 years ago. This line's pretty wild to see in this kind of rivalry. And what we know this rivalry game always is. Auburn, 24-point dogs on the road in Athens. What say you, Matt Green?
Yes, I believe it was something similar. The last time they came, the game you're referencing in 2022, and Georgia did. I think they may have been 28-point favorites in that one, and they covered that spread, 42-10. Took Auburn Tigers to the woodshed, if you will. Some history here. I got for the Deep South's oldest rivalry, 129th meeting between Georgia and Auburn. Georgia's won 7 straight, 16 of the last 19. Fun fact for you, Auburn has not scored more than 1 touchdown in this game when it's played in the state of Georgia since 2009. So that's 8 games in a row that Georgia's played in Athens or 1 in Atlanta where Auburn has not scored more than 1 touchdown. So it's hadn't been great for Auburn in recent history going up against the Dogs. And like that's pre-Mark Richt also, like or pre-Kirby Smart, I should say. Mark Richt had this thing as a one-sided rivalry. Kirby just kept it going. So since 2017, Kirby Smart and Georgia are 8-1 coming off of a loss. Average margin of victory 33-10 since since year 2 of Kirby Smart. So I think we've seen Georgia, and some of those have been some big time games that Georgia's blasted some opponents in. You look at the only game they lost, only back-to-back losses of the Kirby Smart era was 2018 after losing the SEC championship and then losing to Texas in the Sugar Bowl. But so when I look at this game, I think last week was the most impressive performance I've seen from Auburn all season. Like, that offense actually looked pretty good. Like, Peyton Thorne was throwing the thing around. Like, 3 different guys had 40-yard receptions in the game last week. Like, they were making some big plays. And this defense hasn't been terrible. Like, they're giving up 24 points per game in their 3 losses this year. Like, it's not good, but it's like 24 points a game. Like, that's enough you could be winning those games, you know? So the defense hasn't been terrible. But when I look at what Georgia is, like, obviously, like I said, coming off the loss, I think there's going to be, added motivation, big time rivalry. Georgia scored touchdowns on 4 of their last 5 drives against Alabama. Obviously, got off to a terrible start. Didn't get off to a quick start against Clemson either. And obviously not Kentucky. So we've seen not big first halves from Georgia so far this season. But I think they figured some things out in the second half versus Alabama. I think they figured out they do have weapons out wide, and this passing game, this vertical passing game can be really effective. So Auburn's been giving up some yards on the ground as well. If you can see Georgia run the ball better, that would be nice. But I think even if they have to be more one-dimensional, I think they can beat him with the pass. So I think this streak continues, that Auburn is not scoring more than 1 touchdown in the state of Georgia on the Dogs, and I think Georgia wins this. I'm going to say 37-10, and Georgia covers.
We disagree here.
Oh,
Auburn's the dumbest team in the SEC because Auburn's just weird. Like, everything about the Auburn stats are just dumb, Matt Green. Peyton Thornton played a really good game, I think, last week up until the end. Like, he threw the game away for his team, but he was improved. Auburn is an extremely
1 turnover's got to be the best of the season, right?
I mean, yeah. Well, like, the other part of this is, so Auburn is so chaotic in so many ways because they're in the bottom 5 in turnover in fumbles lost. Auburn has been a disaster in a lot of ways, but they've also been kind of weirdly decent and okay in a lot of other ways. Auburn is 7th in yards per attempt through the air. You go through different things with them, and I'm like, okay, they have a more explosive offense than Georgia to this point in the season. Georgia's 75th in the country still in long scrimmage plays.
They have a more explosive offense than Georgia?
I mean, Georgia's 75th right now.
Those
They have 20
Alabama A&M numbers are doing some heavy lifting there.
I mean, Georgia has a less explosive offense than Northern Illinois, Notre Dame, Florida, Minnesota. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Do
like,
they?
right,
Or those what 4 weeks of stats say when with a
we're
bunch
at 5
of
now.
different levels of competition? I don't know. I don't buy it. I don't buy that there's 74 offenses that are more explosive than Georgia.
I don't know. I didn't see an explosive offense in that first half. And I think there's two schools of thought here.
Did you see it in the second half? It was a 4-quarter game.
I mean, I don't disagree. But what I am saying is I think people are still clinging to Georgia figuring some stuff out. And like I saw some after the fact where it's like Georgia, you feel better about Georgia coming out of that Alabama game than Alabama, which is just hilarious to me. But this Georgia team is still thin at receiver. Like, we'll see what Lawson Lucky snaps look like. We'll see what the running back snaps look like. Nate Frazier wasn't a factor. Etienne's okay. You're banged up still on the offensive line. Carson Beck still had an awful first half. That is very possible against Auburn. Auburn's got a good front. Like, they're going to get after Carson Beck. It's going to be a little bit of a tight game. It's not Robbie Ashford back there from 2 years ago. They gave Georgia a lot of problems last year, and honestly, maybe should have won that game. And Brock Bowers was huge for Georgia, as you recall in that game. There's no Brock Bowers to bail Georgia out this year in that kind of a dynamic. I don't think it's going to be that kind of game anyway. But I thought Bill Connolly made a good point on ESPN where he wrote, quote, over 7 previous seasons, Georgia only finished lower than 5th in S&P Plus. Only once finished lower than 5th in S&P Plus. Not only are the Dogs currently 7th, but they still must play 3 teams ranked higher than them, 2 on the road. If the Dogs don't start to improve back toward the top-ranked team they were supposed to be, they're going to be begging the playoff committee to let them in at 9-3, even if they get to 9-3. I just think people are, because Georgia's been so dominant, because Kirby's been so good, and because they've been the best football program over the last 3 years, that people are still giving them the benefit of the doubt, which I understand. But I still don't think this offense is going to be an elite offense. I don't think we're going to see 4 quarters of offensive firepower from this Dogs team. I think Carson Beck is not as good as anyone thought he was going to be coming into the year. I think there's still real questions there. I think they're still limited wide receiver. They don't know what their rotation is. Colby Young played really well. Like, I don't know what their rotation is going to look like on Saturday. I think they're still figuring that out. The DBs got cooked.
I think the receiver rotation has been like the most consistent it's ever been. I mean,
do you feel better? Like, Auburn's got a better receiving core than Georgia. And I think what you saw,
Dylan Bell, Dominic Lovett, and Arian Smith have been like the 3, like they're playing by far more snaps than I feel like Georgia typically plays. Like they're not subbing nearly as much as they usually do.
Well, I think you're going to see more Anthony Evans and Colby Young this week. It's my guess. I think they showed enough where I think
Colby Young definitely gets some.
Lennon Humphreys also was out. Like, is he back?
I don't know. He had mono. I think that's what he was out with. So
we don't know that.
I don't really know how. I mean, that was alleged. That was supposedly what they said, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I've given any secrets away here. But yeah. So I don't know how long you're out with something like that. But
well, the other part of this is, look, like I said, Georgia's secondary got torched last week. Malachi Starks had a tough game. Julian Humphrey looked bad at corner, obviously in the game winner to Ryan Williams. And you're like, oh, that's Ryan Williams.
Ryan Williams. And does Jalen Milroe now look like the best player in college football right now? Like,
no.
That passing, no?
No, I mean, Travis Hunter's the best player in college football, but I don't even think Jalen Milroe is the best quarterback in the conference.
I mean, Jalen Milroe to this point is completing like 80% of his passes or something.
Yeah.
Like, and he's on pace to rush for probably like 1,400 yards. Like, that dude is I mean, I haven't seen a player in college football that looks as good as Jalen Milroe in 2024.
Let's just pump the brakes on Jalen Milroe. Let's see what he looks like in Knoxville. Let's see what he looks like with Tennessee's pass rush in 3 weeks. Like, let's just wait, because I don't think it's going to go the way some people think it's going to go. All that being said, Coleman, Thompson, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Auburn's got dudes at wideout. Like, they have talent there. And I think they're actually going to put pressure, and they have nothing to lose. Like, this is a 3-9 team. They're going to take downfield shots. Like, their yards.
They have nothing to lose.
I mean, Auburn's going in as 3 touchdown dogs, Matt Green.
What did they have to lose against Oklahoma?
No. I mean, what I am saying is that the season, what I am saying is they are going to take a lot of deep shots. I think it's going to surprise some folks, but I think Auburn's going to score on Georgia. I think Auburn is going to connect on some deep shots. I think they're going to challenge Georgia down the field, because I think you probably saw last week against Alabama, this secondary is not as loaded as it used to be. Like, it's just not. Like, there's not as many NFL guys in there right now. We'll see what the rotation is on the defensive line, but Peyton Thorne also ran the ball really well against Georgia last year. You saw Jalen Milroe run all over Georgia in the first half because could Peyton Thorne have the same success?
Auburn Georgia game, wasn't that kind of the fluke? Like, that was kind of the outlier. Like, Peyton Thorne didn't really have, other than the Alabama and Georgia.
He didn't have
game.
Thompson and Coleman though. Like, he didn't have 2 5-star receivers in the fold. He didn't have Keandre Lambert-Smith in the fold. There's a lot more wide receiver talent at Auburn this year.
I mean, this team just scored 14 points against Arkansas like a couple weeks ago. Like,
I mean, I get what you're saying, man. I am just saying I'm not predicting Auburn to win. I am just predicting Auburn to score points, and I think this game is going to be close. I think people overreacted to Georgia second half surge, and I think they go back to it's a struggle. I think this offense is just going to be a struggle bus for the majority of this season. So give me Georgia 31, Auburn 28.
Wow.
This is going to be a close ball game, folks. And Auburn's going to lose in awful fashion. It's going to be the dumbest thing. Like, Peyton Thorne's going to throw a pick six or something, or spin it around. He has the ball with the chance to win late, and he's going to.
I'm just not sure what Auburn has done to make you think that this is a good football team.
I didn't say good.
You just think Georgia's that bad.
I think Auburn is similar in talent. They have a top 15 roster in the sport. I think they have better receivers than a lot of people are giving them credit for. I still think they're pretty solid at running back. They have a mobile quarterback, and we saw what mobile quarterbacks did against Georgia last week. I don't know. I just think there's a recipe for Auburn.
What Jalen Milroe did to Georgia last week.
I am not saying Peyton Thorne is Jalen Milroe. I am saying Peyton Thorne also almost beat Alabama. Should have beat Alabama last year with Jalen Milroe. What I'm saying is Auburn gets up for these games. Auburn should have beaten Alabama and Georgia last year. Should have beat them both. Like, that's something
at home, Auburn gets up for these games.
It doesn't matter. I'm saying that Auburn.
I'm saying you look at the Georgia Auburn history. Like, they haven't been. None of these games have been close. 42 to 10.
Those weren't Hugh Freeze. Toss them out. Like, this is the Hugh Freeze era. You got to toss it out.
Sure, it's because it's been way better in the Hugh Freeze era, right? Like, they've been terrible.
Here's just my prediction.
Hey,
it's gonna be close.
Fair enough.
Mizzou at A&M. The Aggies are 2.5-point favorites. Matt Green, this was the toughest game for me on the pick'em this week. What say you?
Yeah, I'm with you. This was a really tough one. A&M 9-7 all time against Missouri, 2-2 since they both joined the SEC. We haven't seen Missouri since that win that we basically are counting as a loss. The last time we saw them against Vanderbilt a couple weeks ago. I think a lot of people are jumping off the bandwagon for Missouri. I was questionable, so I wasn't on the bandwagon to begin with. I was a little skeptical of Missouri coming into this season. I'm really curious to what we see from this Texas A&M offense, because Missouri, like, that Vanderbilt offense has been with Diego Pavia, like, it's been solid this year, right? Like, definitely way better than anyone thought. But Marcel Reed, I feel like he's like a little diet Jalen Milroe, right? Like, this guy, he's not the best passer, but it's like he doesn't have to be. Like, this guy's so damn quick when he's got the ball, and it just gives this offense a little bit of a spark. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like there's these guys in college that you don't have to be the best player, you don't have to be an NFL prospect, that you kind of just find ways to get the job done. I feel like Le'Veon Moss has been running the ball really well. I just still don't know what, like, the DNA of this Missouri team is to this point, just because we haven't seen them play anybody, and Vanderbilt almost beat them. So I think I'm going to take the Aggies to win this one. Not a home dog. They actually are favored in this one, but I'm going to take Texas A&M 27-24 because I feel like I just don't trust this Missouri team.
I understand that. Missouri is going to get got at some point. Maybe it's A&M. Like, would they lose their first 2 big games at Kyle Field? Like, it's going to be a huge atmosphere, obviously, playing at home in one of the SEC's toughest places to play. Mizzou doesn't feel like a top 10 team. It feels like Mizzou and A&M are both somewhere in the 20s nationally. Maybe you could tell me on the mid-15s to 20s, something like that. But neither are national.
Maybe top 20.
Yeah, maybe. It's just like Mizzou is 6th in drive success rate, which surprised me. They're 37th in passing. It just, even with Luther Burden, who's the best receiver in the country, and maybe, I mean, he's kind of forgotten about with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith and company, bursting on the scene as true freshmen. But Mizzou is 88th in drive success rate when they get close, and then A&M is 50th at drive success rate. I think this might be a sneaky rock fight. I don't think both these offenses really know what they are yet. I think they're just kind of, there's something off. Like, obviously Mizzou played Boston College really close at home. They played Vanderbilt really close at home. It's just, they're playing with their food at home in tough spots, and I think there's just something off with Mizzou. But remember, this A&M team lost to a Notre Dame team at home that struggles to throw the ball down the field at all. You beat Arkansas. It's not like A&M has any of these great wins yet. I don't really love
Florida
either of these teams, right? Like, I just think they're both like B+ teams this year. I don't like either. I think they're both just gonna go 8-4, 9-3. I think Mizzou would be more jeopardy of that if they had a tougher schedule. But I think this is gonna be a rock fight.
8-4, 9-3. That's a really good season for A&M. Year one.
Yeah, I'm saying that's best case scenario. Like, I mean, they still have Texas in the schedule. They still got some big, like,
yeah.
They dropped this one. It looks like 8-4, 7-5. But I don't like either of these teams in this spot. Like, I just think both are kind of fraudulent in different ways. But I still think Mizzou survives on the road here. But I don't feel great about it. Give me Mizzou 34, A&M 30.
All right.
SMU, noted ACC affair. SMU versus Louisville. Louisville are 7-point home favorites. Matt Green, what say you?
So last time we saw the SMU Mustangs, they were putting a beat down on the Florida State Seminoles, and then talking trash on Twitter and everything. Like, I don't know did you see that? Have you seen this or heard about this? You saw what they said on Twitter, right? Just calling them out because FSU is citing SMU for why they wanted to leave the conference. And SMU took that anger out on them. So they scored 66 against TCU and 42 against Florida State since that loss to BYU. I feel like Tyler Shuck has looked really good this year. This SMU offense it's been firing on all cylinders last couple weeks. I think Louisville's going to be the best defense they've faced so far, or at least since the BYU game. I think I like because Tyler Shuck in this Louisville offense, I think they have more than SMU offensively, and they can, and defensively, to get this done. So I think I'm going with the home field, but I think this is going to be a really good game. So give me Louisville 30-27.
Yeah, I think both teams are good. I mean, SMU has been a completely different program since they benched Preston Stone early in the season. They're just very similar, right? Like, these two teams both feel kind of built in similar fashions. I think Rhett Lashley and Jeff Brom are both really good coaches. I think both are like in their own tier 2 in the ACC this year, you know? Like, they're not in the Miami tier. I don't think they're in the Clemson tier, but they're right below them. They're like somewhere in that B+, A- range, where I think they can go 9-3, 10-2, and it wouldn't surprise either of us. But the ACC is a dumpster fire, and I think this is a sneaky important game in terms of like a loser is out of the ACC title picture and a potential first round bye. Like, Louisville, even with the loss to Notre Dame, still has everything in front of them. So does SMU. So this is a big game for both because the ACC is a dumpster fire. Florida State, awful. North Carolina, awful. North Carolina State, awful. And you go Virginia Tech, another pseudo contender before the year. They're awful. ACC has a lot of room at the top to seize that opportunity, and you never know what's going to happen if you make the ACC title game. So I think it's a big shot for both. And Louisville was just in the ACC title game last year. So I think it's a big game for both sides. I think this just being at home just gives me more comfortability with Louisville winning, but it's a 7-point line for a reason. So give me Louisville 38. Give me Louisville 38, SMU 34. I think SMU covers. I think this is going to be a close game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think winner of this game is winning the Belk Bowl. Put it on the board.
Iowa at Ohio State. Noted CBS affair that we're all very excited for. The Ohio State Buckeyes are 20.5 point favorites against the Hawkeyes. What say you, Matt Green?
Man, I know we're gonna be, accused of the SEC bias and everything, but that CBS 3:30 game just does not hit like it once did. I feel like, I don't know, there's just something missing. When I watch the little jingle at the start, even, it's like, I don't know. I don't get those chills. It just it feels dull. No offense to Gary Danielson and Brad Nessler, doing great work.
Well, I think it also feels dull on the ABC side. The ABC jingle stinks for the SEC. It's not good.
But
No
it's
juice.
like I don't even need the jingle. It's like it just the SEC crowd brings the energy. I don't know
we
what
want
it
the
is.
ESPN jingle. Do you know that the one from with Dan not Dan Patrick, Mike Patrick, was that his
Mike
name?
Patrick?
Yeah.
Mike Patrick and Todd Blackledge back
Yeah,
in
that's
the
the
day.
jingle. We all know. Everyone listening to this knows the jingle. That's the one we need.
Do the jingle. Can you do it?
I can't. It's just a lot of drums. There it
is. Yes.
Yeah,
Well done, sir. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And it's Disney owned. Just bring it back. You have the rights. Just give it back. Just do that. What are we doing? Don't make it complicated.
I'm with you there. So these are the top two teams in the Big Ten so far, and points per game allowed in the Big Ten. But I feel like we know what's going to happen here. Like, Iowa plays some great defense, and this year they're playing better offense. But come on now. We know what maybe this is a rock fight for 2 quarters if Iowa is like everything goes to plan, right? And somehow Ohio State takes a 9-3 lead into the half or something. But I think Ohio State's just got too much firepower. And, I think the jury's still out for like how good this offense really is with Will Howard. But I mean, I think they have enough to beat Iowa handedly. So give me Ohio State to win and cover. I'm going to say Ohio State wins this one 31-10.
We disagree here, Matt Green.
Oh,
I'm not saying Iowa's winning this football game because they're not winning this football game. However, this is a bad matchup for Ohio State. In this one, Ohio State has not played anybody. The combination of Henderson and Judkins has been the story for Ohio State. As much as Jeremiah Smith has popped as true freshman, he's going to be an awesome player. You haven't seen a lot of Ibuka, not a lot of Cardell Tate, not a lot of Jeremiah Smith to this point because Will Howard's fine. We joked where it's like they're back in their Craig Krenzel era. It's fine. Maybe they can win a title with Will Howard as their quarterback this year. Maybe. But the offense, especially the downfield stuff and just the passing attack, has not been where it's been in years past that we've come to expect from Ohio State. It's been a run-first team. Iowa's 4th in rush defense, sir. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball like they have at any point this year. I think Ohio State's going to have to throw downfield. And I think they're going to be uncomfortable throughout this game against the Hawkeyes.
Do they have to throw the ball downfield, or can they just give that thing to Jeremiah Smith and just let him do what he does?
I mean, maybe, but also Ohio State's defense is legit all across the board. We'll see how legit, with that Vaughn and Iowa offense here. But Iowa's given up 0 rushing touchdowns this year. That's huge. Ohio State and Iowa are both top 5 in opponent long scrimmage plays. Neither of them give up long plays. I think this is going to be a low scoring. Neither team is going to be able to do a whole lot. They're not going to be able to attack the way they want to. And I think it's going to be a frustrating game for Ohio State fans because I think Iowa's going to drag them in a Kentucky-like fashion into the mud. I think this is going to be a close game that Iowa covers. So give me Ohio State 23, Iowa 17.
Oh, wow. I see. I wouldn't be surprised if it's close for a while because this is the best running game we've seen from Iowa in several years with Caleb Johnson back there. So if they can, at least the best thing they can do for their defense, and it is a solid defense year in and year out, the best thing they can do is just keep that Ohio State offense off the field. But that's easier said than done because this Ohio State D, like, they've been waiting for a legit opponent. Like, obviously they played Michigan State last week. They're not. I think we can confidently say Iowa's better than Michigan State. But they only gave up 7 points last week, so it's easier said than done to move the ball in this Ohio State defense, and they're gonna be ready to go for this one.
I like it. Ole Miss at South Carolina, where the South Carolina Gamecocks are 9-point home favorites. What say you, Matt Green?
So I think this is low key the most interesting game of the weekend because I think everyone's a lot higher on South Carolina right now than they were a few weeks ago, or at least a month ago. And I think people are a lot lower on Ole Miss than they were at least a week ago. So it's really interesting from what they did against Kentucky a week ago. And I don't know that South Carolina can recreate that because, like we're talking about, like Kentucky just has a way of just kind of moving the ball 3-4 yards at a time. And what did they have the ball for like 40 minutes, I want to say, in that game against Ole Miss last week? Like they just kept that Ole Miss offense off the field. I don't know that South Carolina can do that. The biggest thing, Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders, both questionable for this game. Like, I mean, I think if they're not playing, this is Robbie Ashford. I think this team maybe doesn't get blown out, but I don't think their offense can score any points. So I'm going to go off thinking that Sellers and Rocket Sanders are going to play in this game. And I think it's going to be close. I think this is going to go back and forth. I don't think it's going to be super high scoring, but I think Ole Miss gets it done. But I'm going to say South Carolina covers. So give me Ole Miss 30, South Carolina 23. They can't lose 2 in a row.
Can they not? Kevin lost 3 in a row at one point in the
Definitely
2022
can.
season. It's weird. Like you said, Robbie Ashford played really well against Akron. Laura Sellers, they had LSU on the brink and should have won that game. We don't have to relitigate that one. How different are we looking at this game?
Blew that one.
Well, how differently do we look at this game if they win that game outright? Like, we're looking at this as a huge matchup for South Carolina as they continue to impress. I think South Carolina's been better than expected to this point in the year. I worry a little bit about Rocket Sanders' availability. I worry a little bit about Lenora Sellers walking back in this spot. But you saw, here's the problem for Ole Miss. You saw Kentucky's front with multiple NFL players in that front seven for Kentucky give Ole Miss's offensive line all kinds of problems. Jackson Dart did not play well on Saturday. South Carolina has a true freshman 5-star Dylan Stewart and NFL guys on that defensive line. I think South Carolina is going to give Ole Miss's front problems. And the other issue, Ole Miss is not at home here. They're going to a very tough place to play in Columbia. This crowd's going to be rocking. Jackson Dart had a players only meeting or whatever on Sunday. Probably not good if your first loss is like, hey guys, like the season's not over. This is one of those things where you see when your team is built off transfers and it's not in-house guys, it's kind of built like the Florida State stuff where it can get ugly in a hurry. This team was built to win now. There's all kinds of pressure because if you drop this game, it's over. And then what does the rest of the season look like for Walter Nolan and Princely and Dart and Juice Wells and all these guys who came in to a team that you thought was going to win this year? Like, you had college ball playoff aspirations this year. There is so much pressure on Ole Miss coming into this game. There's nothing on South Carolina. Like, I struggle to see how Ole Miss wins this game, Matt Green, on the road in a tougher place to play when you just lost to a team who I think is worse than South Carolina at home. Part of it's the availability. I don't like that we don't know for sure on Lenora Sellers and Rocket Sanders before this weekend. I hate having to make this pick, so I will text you if both are out. My pick will change, and I'm just putting it on the record right now on October 3rd here.
Are you going to count it for the people this time?
We're going to count it for the people this time. I'm putting it on the record. If the availability, my pick will change. But if they are both ready to go, I don't think Ole Miss can win this kind of game. I think we saw Ole Miss. They're not nearly. They're kind of in that Mizzou territory where I don't think they're real contenders. I think we know who the real contenders in the SEC are, and it's Alabama, Tennessee, Texas, and Georgia. I think that's it. I think those are the big four this season in the SEC. And I think you're seeing that Ole Miss and Missouri were a little bit of fool's gold. And we'll see if Mizzou, they fall to A&M. But Ole Miss, I don't like this matchup for them because what Kentucky did to them last week on the road, I think South Carolina can do it better than Kentucky. I think South Carolina's got a better offense. I think South Carolina's got just as good of a defensive line as Kentucky, and it's at home. So 9's low here. Like Ole Miss 9 is low for this game. I'm just gonna say South Carolina wins this outright. I think this is the biggest win in the Shane Beamer era, and Kiffin drops 2 in a row here. I think there are real problems with this Ole Miss team. Give me South Carolina 26, Ole Miss 23.
Now, I'm not trying to, bring up any old wounds here, but this, sir, would be nowhere close to the best win of the Shane Beamer era.
No, best win. I don't know what you're talking about. No.
Beating
Best win.
and Clemson back-to-back. That was clearly the best
about.
2 wins of the Beamer era.
I don't recall anything. I blacked out after the Tennessee game, or after the first quarter of the Tennessee game. Next up here, Matt Green. Rutgers versus Nebraska. The Huskers are 7-point home favorites. What say you, sir?
This was another tough one for me. I kept going back and forth because I think I trust Rutgers more. Kyle Manungai. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right.
Just Isaac Pacheco 2.0. I mean,
yeah.
I love that Rutgers just develops these guys, like these hard-nosed, impossible to tackle little running backs who are just extremely physical.
Yeah, this dude's been a workhorse this year. But, this Nebraska defense has been solid too. So, I don't know. We obviously saw this team lose to Illinois a couple weeks ago. I feel like Rutgers, Illinois feel like they're on a pretty similar level. Rutgers is probably better than Illinois. I think I'm gonna go with the home team here. I was going back and forth. I feel like Nebraska's been solid this year. Got the win, bounced back last week at Purdue. I'm going to say Nebraska gets it done in dramatic fashion. This one comes down to the last possession of the game. I'm going to say the Huskers win this one 21-20.
It's tough.
So they do not cover, but they do win.
I feel you. Raiola is okay. Like, he's not a superstar, but you look at how most true freshmen have fared. Like, he's a great true freshman success story at Nebraska. But you watch that offense, it's not a great offense. Like Satterfield and company, like it's not an electric offense. Rutgers knows who their identity is. Nebraska kind of does, but Rutgers knows exactly how they're going to win football games. Like they know exactly how they're going to do it. But they also have like still a shot at making the Big Ten title game. Like Rutgers, you look at that schedule and you look at, this is a huge game for these two schools. And this is kind of like a loser is out of the Big Ten title game picture for these two. I am very fascinated to see how this game goes because I think it's going to be a rock fight. The problem that I run into with Rutgers being able to pull this off on the road in Lincoln is Nebraska and Tony White's defense, they're top 10, 9th in rushing defense. And I just don't think Rutgers is going to be able to run the ball enough on the road to pull this off. I mean, it helps that they get an extra day. You knock off Washington on Friday last week. You feel good. I just don't think they're going to have the horses to play, to beat Nebraska on the road the way they can beat some other teams in this conference. So I think Rutgers is still really good. I think they're much improved here this year. I think Nebraska is solid. But the best thing for Nebraska here is it's not a ranked team, which is good because Matt Rule has struggled against ranked teams. So it's good that Rutgers did not crack the AP top 25 this week because I might just pick Rutgers outright if they crack the top 25. So give me
close, right?
They had to be getting votes, but yeah, give me Nebraska 27. I'll say they cover. Nebraska 27, Rutgers 20. Let's do 19 there, just to say they cover. I hate these solid lines. Michigan at Washington. The Huskies are 2-point home favorites. What say you, Matt Green?
So Will Rogers has actually been, decent this year. They obviously lost to Rutgers last week on Friday night. I just don't think I trust this Michigan offense. Like they were beaten, like they had a lead and Minnesota kind of made that game, look close at the end. So I don't think the 27-24 score line is like necessarily, indicative, but they had the good win against USC a couple weeks ago, but they're going on the road for the first time this year, like 6 weeks. That's pretty crazy for that to be their first road game. And I don't trust Alex Orji in this offense going on the road, to be honest. Like, they've been able to kind of just go by the script and throw the ball 12, 15 times a game and then just pound the rock. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that against Washington. So on the road, I'm going to take Washington to win this game. I'm going to take Washington 20-17. Not going to be a high scoring game. Similar to probably the Rutgers game a week ago. Maybe Washington gets that field goal at the end and wins this one.
I don't think it's going to be the same. I think Washington wins and covers comfortably. I think the problem for Michigan they're going to run into all year is I think people kind of need to look at Michigan, not in the exact same way as Georgia, but in a similar way, where you just kind of have to change your expectations in 2024. You have to leave the past in the past. Alex Orji is not going downfield. Like, this passing offense is horrific.
Did you watch Georgia play in the second half? Just like 40-yard bomb after 40-yard bomb. Like, they were going nuts in the second half.
It was fine. We'll see what it looks like the rest of the way.
Compared Carson Beck to Alex Orji over here. Get out of here.
I'm not saying that. My point, you got specific here. My point was you have to leave what Georgia was in 23, 22, and 21 in the past. You have to leave what Michigan was last year in the past. The team that won the national title is nowhere close to the team that you're seeing this year. And there are real weaknesses with this Michigan team. Washington, you brought up Will Rogers, 11 TDs, no picks thus far. Jed Fish and Carroll and Belichick have done a really good job this season out of the gate here. They have extra time to prepare based on their Rutgers game. I don't think they dropped two straight. Huskies are fourth in long scrimmage plays. I think they're just going to score. Like, I understand Michigan's defense is still really good. It's on the road. Washington's a tough place to play. I think Washington's going to be a back and forth team this year, where they somehow are 8-4, 7-5, but they win some big games, they lose some big games. They're still feeling it out here in the Jed Fish era, but I think they're well coached. I think they still have a lot of talent from that previous year, and I just think they're going to score enough. I don't think Michigan can win in these games with some explosive offenses like Washington's going to have, especially at home. So I think they're going to have enough explosive plays to kind of make Michigan have to pass a little bit to keep up, and I don't think they're going to be able to. I think it's going to be a bad Alex Orji game. I think Steve Belichick's going to put him in a blender, and this Michigan offense is going to sputter in a major way on the road in Washington. So give me the Huskies 34, Michigan 16.
All right, put it on the board. You know what we did not mention one time, sir? That this is a rematch of the national championship from a year ago.
I completely forgot. And like, is that not crazy?
Does not feel like that at all.
No, it really doesn't.
Two different head coaches. Just not many of the key players from the teams a season ago. It's just completely, two completely different programs. It feels like now.
100%. UCF traveling to Florida, which is way more of a winnable game. Now Florida's favored by 2.5 after UCF gets blasted at home by Colorado last week. Florida was off. What say you, Matt Green?
Florida Gators 2-1 all time against the Central Florida Golden Knights, but UCF won the most recent one back in 2021, the only recent one in 2021. Last two were 1999, 2006. So this one is going to be in the swamp, and I think after last week, I'm not really sure what to expect from this UCF team. I don't think anyone was expecting Colorado to just put it on them the way they did. Billy Napier said this week, we're going to see the 2 quarterback thing the entire season. I don't know. I guess it feels like that's to keep DJ Lagway happy and the fans happy, seeing the freshman, the shiny new toy. Because Graham Mertz has been solid. Like, he's been putting up better numbers when he's in the game than Lagway. But Lagway was good. I mean, the 2 quarterback system worked against Mississippi State a couple weeks ago. So maybe it'll work here. I tend to just seeing, obviously, we don't know how Florida and Colorado compare as teams right now, but seeing Colorado shut this UCF team down, and obviously Florida's not going to be able to create the big plays in the passing game that Colorado was, or at least not as many. But I still feel like in the swamp, I trust Florida more. There's maybe some better vibes now. Maybe they actually pack this stadium out this week and they're not booing Billy Napier by like halftime. I'm going to take Florida to win this one. I'm going to say 27-21.
Interesting. I didn't think we would agree here. I am agreeing with you. This is a UCF, man. Like, they went from Big 12 favorite to dogs on the road at Florida very, very quickly. Florida, kind of better vibes right now. I think Billy Napier obviously winning.
Because they haven't played in a week.
Well, they also won the previous game. Then they don't play in a week.
Yeah.
And UCF gets embarrassed, so now you're favored. UCF has a top 10 rushing defense, which, okay, but the problem is that's not how Florida's going to beat UCF. UCF is 106th in pass defense. Like, Shedeur Sanders and company threw all over this Knights defense last week. Ted Roof is defensive coordinator at UCF. He is not a good defensive coordinator in the sport. He's been the defense coordinator at a lot of stops, not been good anywhere. This is going to get cooked. This team is, I think DJ Lagway has a big game here. The DJ Lagway Graham Mertz show torches UCF in a similar way that Colorado just did. So give me a lot of Lagway. I think this is going to be the story coming out of this game. Is like, whoa, Lagway is still a dude, and now Florida's won 2 straight going into Knoxville on Saturday night the following week. I think Florida's going to be a little bit of a hot streak, and UCF is going to be like, whoa, what's happened to our season? It's been torpedoed very quickly. So give me Florida 38, UCF 34.
Also, another big thing, Colorado turned them over 4 times last week. Florida hasn't been turning people over that much this year. So we'll see. We'll see if the Gators can just 1 interception on the season so far. So we'll see if they can get some turnovers from this UCF. Also, what do we think the crowd demographics are going to be? Is this?
Oh, it's all Florida. What do you mean?
UCF. I mean, this is UCF Super Bowl playing Florida. You don't think they're going to have a little crowd in the swamp? I bet you they have a nice little 10% little section. Like, I could see UCF showing out for this one.
I think this is a little ridiculous. I think you've gone too far. Like, this is still Florida.
This is their Super Bowl, man. It's a quick drive.
All right, that's ridiculous. I can't do this. I can't let you besmirch the swamp here.
I mean, they probably get
overrun.
They probably get a solid 10%, like a lot of tickets, right? But I don't know.
I can feel it on the broadcast. You're not going to be like, "Whoa, what a takeover in Gainesville, Florida." The Knights contingent has overrun the swamp. I don't think that's gonna happen.
You know that fact they always put on the broadcast? UCF's got like the highest enrollment of like any school in the entire country or something.
Yeah.
So they got those students. They might be those commuter students. I'm not sure, but hey, Gainesville's not a far drive from Orlando.
Whatever you say, man. Goodness gracious. Next up, Miami going to Cal. College game day here. Pretty wild stuff. Cal and their awesome Twitter contingent, 10-point dogs. Is this your Zeus home dog of the week, Matt Green?
I think had last week not happened, I think this had home dog of the week material. I think game day being here is not good for Cal, to be honest, because I think there is a potential of like this being a sleepy game for Miami. Like going cross country, like, yeah, we're gonna get up for Cal Berkeley, like, get out of here. But almost lost on the Hail Mary to Virginia Tech last week. Like, it felt like that was the scare that Miami was going to have. Now there's going to be like a big game atmosphere around this game. Like, I could see Miami kind of getting up early in this one and Cal kind of struggling to hold on. Like let's keep in mind, like, Cal has been solid, but like is their best win Auburn right now? Like, I mean, sure. Like, Cal hasn't beaten anybody to this point. So, I don't think you should be really concerned with this one. I think Miami gets right after that close call. I think I'm going to say Miami wins this one. I'm going to say 38-24. I think they like, it might be competitive, but I think they'll pull away. Like, Florida State is not beating anybody, and they beat the Cal Bears. So I don't know. That's not a good look. So I'm gonna give me Miami to win and cover on the road.
I think they help. They're another team that helps. Just like going through that, win your clunkers, as Dan Rubenstein of the Solid Verbal always says, which I subscribe to. I feel like Miami's ruining my Thomas family group chat, Matt Green. I'm going to peel behind the curtain here a little bit. The Thomas family, extended family, everybody. Cousin Sam, big Florida State guy. They're going to be listening to this. Look, I have cited so many things as why Miami's real and why Miami is one of the 8 best teams in college football this year. They spin like a contender. They've developed really well at the high school level, like the Francis Maligoes of the world. Like Mario Cristobal has done a really good job recruiting in the trenches. They have been active in the portal, bringing in Cam Ward and Damian Martinez and Tyler Barron from Tennessee off the edge. Like, this is a legitimate team. This is a team that beat the crap out of Florida to start the year on the road. This is a team that thrashed the USF team that took Bama to the distance. I think they just might be one of those teams that don't get up for some of these big, like, they just kind of are going to have some weird games. You're like, what happened? I was believing in Miami. And then, folks, Miami is the best team in the ACC. Miami has the Heisman favorite at quarterback. Miami has one of the best offensive and defensive line combinations in all of college football. Miami is a very, very good team. They have a very good staff. I understand Mario Cristobal lost a game last year in very silly fashion at Georgia Tech. Mario Cristobal also won a lot of football games at Oregon. Oregon was not going the wrong direction under Mario Cristobal. Like, I think there's this like weird misnomer when it comes to Cristobal. People are overreacting and do not want to say Miami is this year's Texas to me, where everyone was so afraid to say Texas is back, and then, lo and behold, Texas in the 14 playoff, and then played really well in the 14 playoff and was right there at the end. I think that's where Miami is. Miami is this thing of the past. People are so scared to just be like, no, Miami's back. No, Miami is a elite title contending team this year. That is where Miami is. I think they are going to go to Cal, and I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win comfortably. I think they're going to have some clunkers in here. I don't think it's going to be easy week in, week out, but it's not easy for anybody week in, week out in the sport. The main thing is to escape those games where everything doesn't go right. You need, like, a Hail Mary reversal happens, and you escape, and you live to fight another day. Miami is going to have some weird games. They are not going to play up to their talent, but Miami is one of the 8 best programs in the country right now. Miami is legit. They're going to win this football game. They should be the favorites in the ACC. They are in a good spot to get a bye. They could win the whole dang thing this year. No, give me Miami. I think Cal's a good story, but Cal usually falters in the Wilcox era after the first part of the season. I think this might be where it starts to turn a little bit for them. Give me Miami 44, Cal 20.
All right.
Thank you for letting me get on my soapbox there. It's been driving me nuts. People don't like Miami.
Yeah, I think the older folks, and you got some Florida State fans in your group chat as well. But yeah, Miami's got a lot of haters. I'm not putting them on 2023 Texas's level just yet, personally. But yeah, I mean they're a dangerous team. We'll see. I'm not sold they're better than Clemson right now through 5 weeks. So we'll see. They're on a collision course. Hopefully we get a couple of 1-loss undefeated teams all the way to Charlotte at the end of the season.
I am here for it. Final 2 here, Matt Green. Duke, undefeated. No one's talking about them. Come from behind, big win against North Carolina, down 3 touchdowns at one point. In that one, they come all the way back and beat their in-state rival, Manny Diaz, undefeated. Malik Murphy and company. Going to Tech, and Tech is 9-point home favorites. I think this is the weirdest line to me. Like, Georgia Tech's the favorite, and Duke is undefeated at this point. What say you?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think Georgia Tech. I've been very complimentary of Georgia Tech so far this year. Lost the games with Syracuse and Louisville. Like, the best win they have is Florida State. Like, we still have no idea how good this team actually is. I think Duke, to this point, I think Malik Murphy's a dangerous weapon at quarterback. You saw them get that win over North Carolina last week, which, say what you want about North Carolina. But I'm with you. I didn't understand that line when I first saw it. I think Duke goes on the road and wins this outright. So give me Duke to win this 23-20 in Bobby Dodd Stadium.
There's something I'm missing with. I mean, Duke, the numbers aren't great. Like they're 68th in long scrimmage plays. Georgia Tech is just a chaos team. They're 23rd. Buster Faulkner's done a really good job. I think the 9's too high, but I could see why there's more belief in Tech at home here. And with Haynes King and company, I think Tech's going to score. And I don't know if, like Duke, the kind of hole they dug against themselves against UNC and came back from, I don't think they can do that against Georgia Tech on the road. I think Tech's better than that. I don't feel great. Like I think Duke could absolutely just win this game outright, but they've only played like 4 times, I think, to ever where Duke came in undefeated. And Tech won 2 of 3. I saw the most recent ones. I think Tech's going to score a little bit too much for Duke to keep up with them. So I think Duke covers though. 9's too many points for how good Duke's been this year. So give me Georgia Tech 30, Duke 27.
All right, one more, sir.
Clemson on the road. We thought this would be a huge game, maybe deciding who would be in the ACC title game before the year, Matt Green. Not so fast, my friend. This game does not have that luster. Clemson on the road at Florida State. The Noles with Brock Glenn now under center with DJU out with injury for a couple weeks here. Brock Glenn getting his first start for the Noles here this season. What say you, Matt Green?
Is this like when the baseball players in a 1-for-38 streak and they put them on the IL for a little bit? They're like, why don't you just take a couple weeks off? Get your mind right. DJU didn't need to be the center of attention with the storyline of playing Clemson and everything this week. Why don't you just take a couple weeks off, bro? Yeah, I think before last year, Clemson won 7 straight in this rivalry. This is typically one of the best games of the year in the ACC every year. I think Clemson's figured some things out on offense, and I do not think Florida State has figured much out. So I think this one gets pretty ugly, to be honest, in front of a 50% capacity Doak Campbell Stadium. I'm going to say Clemson wins this one 41-17. I think this one gets out of hand.
We disagree here. I think Florida State's going to drag them into the mud. I think this is a game they're going to get up for. Part of the issues with Florida State is the turnovers. They're 114th in turnover margin to this point. I don't think Brock Glenn's going to turn it over like that. I think they're going to be conservative. I think they're going to try and play keep away, try and sustain some drives. They're 12-6 all time at home against Clemson. They had lost 7 straight though in this series before last year getting over the hump and at Clemson. So I thought this was interesting from Bill Connolly too. He said, quote, in their lone win, a 14-19 defeat of Cal was statistically unlikely. They were outgained by 126 yards and allowed far more scoring opportunities than they created. Almost halfway through the season, they're 125th in total offense and 92nd in total defense. I still think there's going to be a post-DJ bump a little bit. I think Brock Glenn's going to be an upgrade. I think they're going to get up for this game. They have nothing to lose here. The season's over. Who cares? They can play spoiler to Clemson. They've been the 2 pillars of the ACC over the last decade. I think Florida State's going to keep this close. You're going to look over the scorebook in the fourth quarter and you're like, why is Clemson down 20-17 to Florida State on the road? And people are going to be like, oh, right, we overreacted to Clemson over the last few weeks and that this team got blasted by a not as great Georgia team as people thought before the year. So give me Clemson to win, but I think Florida State covers. I think this is an awful game where Florida State makes Cade Klubnik really struggle and they drag them into the mud. Give me Florida State 23, Clemson 30.
You're just hating on everyone on Georgia's schedule. I think that's the pattern I'm picking up on. Like,
no, you just are talking up. You want it for the committee.
Kentucky has the win of the weekend last week, and we spend like 3 minutes just bashing Brock Vandegrift instead of just hyping up how great of a win it was and how fraudulent the Ole Miss Rebels are. This Clemson offense has been unstoppable since they left Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Like, I don't know what would give you the idea that Florida State can keep anything close. You think Mike Norvell wouldn't have gone to DJU sooner if he had a better option? Like, this is not going to be good.
We shall see, Matt Green. That's why they play him.
That is why they play the games.
Well, that's all I've got, sir.
This will be an exciting one. So let me see here. So I got South Carolina is a dog, and I didn't pick them to win. I did pick them to cover as a home dog. A sneaky one, I'm just going to throw out there, a little bonus action. Minnesota Golden Gophers hosting the USC Trojans. Both of these teams lost 27-24 at Michigan last couple weeks. Don't sleep on the Golden Gophers with the USC Trojans coming to town. What are they? What's the line on that one? Are they like a 7-point dog? I just had it pulled up. 8 points. Minnesota 8-point dog. Don't be surprised if they went outright. USC might be sleepwalking through Minnesota.
Okay. I don't hate it. Well, that's all I've got, my friend. Another full, fun slate here on Saturday, and we'll talk about it on Sunday for the Monday show, sir. But until then, thank you as always, my friend, and I will talk to you in a couple days.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.